Hello everybody, welcome to the video. This is part 3 of my wrestling story. So we left off that I got thrown into my first match when I was completely unaware, unexpected, and completely unready. So backstage, when I was going over what we were going to do in the match and the spots I was going to do with the guy I was set up to wrestle, it was basically we came up with 8 separate spots, and then we were just going to put little fillers and transitions in between them. And all the spots that we came up with were spots from some of my favorite matches growing up through the years, because that's all I really had to go on, because I didn't have in-ring experience and I didn't have that instant audience telling me what's going to work and what's not. A lot of wrestlers, their craft and what they do in the ring is very much honed by the audience itself, because hey, last week I did this and it went over pretty well, or it got a good response, so you know, then they worked that into the show. Well, one of the things that ended up happening in that match was we had our spots and everything, but there was one spot where I worked him in a corner and I threw him into the corner, I whipped him into the corner, and I came in and I did like a stinger splash on him. Just wow, just crushed him, right? And I was the heel, so I was playing it up like, yeah, this son of a bitch ain't nothing, blah blah blah, and everyone was just screaming at me, and I was getting a lot of good heat because I have a natural ability to get people to hate me really quick. And so as a heel, I was doing good. So I whipped him into the other rope, and then I start taking my time, which is a big mistake, and I'm like, yeah, you want to see me crush this son of a bitch one more time, blah 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 blah. Well, I come in at full speed, and he puts his foot up like a big boot right into my head, and I take the bump and I go down, and the place just erupted. And I'm thinking, wow, either I got over as a heel and they really wanted to see me get knocked out, or I can't explain what now. So anyways, we had the match. I actually ended up winning by putting my feet on the rope, because later that night we had a battle royal, and the battle royal was supposed to be, they were having this tournament series for tag team champions, and the winners of 4 battle royals would then go into some other kind of 4-way match, and then the last 2 would be tag team champions. And the whole outcome was supposed to be that there was going to be tag team champions, and there was going to be 2 people that didn't get along as partners, but you know, had to coexist. Well, the guy who was supposed to win the Royal Rumble was the person I was wrestling earlier that night. So it was a battle royal, I should say, not a Royal Rumble. There is a difference. So we're in the battle royal, and of course we already had a match earlier that night, so there's a little bit of feud and some tension and some psychology between us. So the battle royal comes down to us too, and this is where he gets his revenge, because I can't beat him unless I throw him over the ropes. So he's beating the crap out of me, and I'm saying, ref, I quit, I quit. And he's like, you can't quit, this is a battle royal, there's no quitting, there's no pinfall, so whatnot. And eventually he throws me over the top rope, and you know, he gets his revenge on me, and it's like, woo, and the crowd loved it, and the crowd went wild, and they were booing me as I walked back through the curtain, and everything was going good, and everything is off to a great start. Well, Norman Smiley and Angel Armani and Jack Jurassic and all the other wrestlers that were supposed to show up still hadn't gotten there yet. So it was a long time, and we were like, crap, what are we gonna do? So what we had to do was 2 other wrestlers and myself and the person I wrestled all went into a tag team match. Major Chaos was the person I wrestled. I probably should have mentioned that. His name is Major Chaos. He was tagged with another wrestler named Darkchild, and Darkchild was kind of like the Sting, the Shawn Michaels of the promotion I was working at. They tagged together, and I tagged with a wrestler at the time whose name was Sledge, who later changed his name to, I believe, Josh Callisto, who became a pretty big cruiserweight wrestler in the Midwest and whatnot. Well, I ended up tagging with him, and he was a good guy, so the whole point was I beat him up to make him my partner and forced him to be my partner. And we once again had a tag team match. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing in a tag team match, but thank God that I was able to sneak by or get by and whatnot, and everything turned out all right. And I guess the crowd wasn't the wiser. In fact, it probably helped that the average age of the crowd that day just happened to be 8 or 9 years old. For some reason, a lot of parents decided to dump their kids off at the wrestling show and use it as a daycare center, so that was good. So there wasn't any marks in the audience or whatnot, so that was good. And Norman Smiley wasn't there to watch me wrestle, or else he might have said, you know what, I saw this kid wrestle and he sucks, and I could have had a black name in wrestling ever since. Well, eventually I watched the tapes back of the match that I had, the first opening match of the night, my first ever match, and the reason the crowd popped so loudly when I took that boot to the head was when I took the bump from that and I sold it. It literally looked like my head came off. I snapped down and bumped so hard, so quick, so violently, and with such sympathy almost, but I was a heel, so he didn't feel bad for me, that it literally looked like I snapped my neck. And that actually became one of my trademark moves in wrestling. One of my trademark moves was something getting done to me. Very much like when Ric Flair goes to the top rope, he gets Gorilla Press slammed off. So one of my trademark moves was me getting my ass kicked. But people love to see it. People eventually were paying to see it, and they liked it because I did it so well. But that was really spawned out of overeagerness, I think, to make myself bump like that. But hey, it worked, and I learned the rest as I went along because I didn't go back to training to be a wrestler anymore from that day forward. I was a wrestler now. I was going to shows, and I was getting put on the card, and I was learning as I went, and sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I had great matches, sometimes I had really inconsistent bad matches. But as time went on, wrestling started to really steamroll, and that's how it all started. Well, if you want to hear more stories, you could always subscribe. I'll bring the next one, probably some just random stories now, and try and really talk about my wrestling career. If you have any questions you want to ask me, like what famous wrestlers have I wrestled, what's the biggest match of my life, what's the biggest show of my life, what's the biggest moment of my life, what titles have you won, all the typical questions. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section below and I'll try and answer them in the following videos. But I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you have a good day. Bye.